Are you a thoughtful leader? Maybe you are. Maybe you think you are. Let's find out. I'm Mindy Gibbins-Klein. I'm author of The Thoughtful Leader and host of the Thoughtful Leader podcast. Thoughtful leadership is all about thought leadership that goes above and beyond. Thought leadership that is truly new and original, exciting, disruptive, maybe even groundbreaking. Because let's face it, we need to raise the bar. My guests and I are absolutely obsessed with finding truly original thought leadership, and I'm going to bring you so many exciting ideas and opportunities, things for you to think about, and chances for you to push your thinking that you'll be very glad you tuned in. So thanks so much for checking out Thoughtful Leadership and the Thoughtful Leader podcast. I look forward to connecting with you very, very soon. Welcome to the show. My guest today is the amazing thoughtful leader, Marie Diamond. I'm so happy that we finally got her on the show. Hey, Marie.
Hi, Mindy. It's so amazing to be here. And thank you so much for inviting me to your podcast.
Of course, when we think of thoughtful leaders and leaders in general doing important work out there in the world, your name is always up there at the top. So we had to get you on the show. Tell everybody about your background. I know they can read the notes, but the things that you want them to remember about you.
Well, so people know me as a global transformation leader, international best-selling author and speaker. And most people will probably know me from the Feng Shui master starring in The Secret, the global phenomena, and in many other documentaries. So I'm actually teaching people about Feng Shui, meditation, enlightened leadership, and I have students online in more than 190 countries.
I'm so sorry. I'm so excited. I'm dropping things. 190 countries. Is that what you just said?
Yes.
Okay. So I think you're also one of the most successful people that we've had on the show so far, which, that is great. People's definition of success varies. And of course, the whole reason for having transformational leadership is so people can transform themselves into whatever success means for them. So please talk to us a little bit about your ideas on transformational leadership, which I think is very similar to thoughtful leadership.
Yes. So as you know, I'm part of the Transformational Leadership Council, who is the most well-known transformation leadership circle. And I also created the European Transformation Leadership Association about 11 years ago. So one of the things that for me, transformation is that, especially transformation leadership, is to help others where they are in their life and probably they're blocked or stuck or they don't see their full potential, and to help them with transformational tools and services, but not just giving them the tools and the transformation, but also giving them a space of heart and allowing them to grow as human beings. And I do believe when we are inspiring people as transformation leaders, we actually hope and inspire them to become themselves again, transformation leaders in their own community. So it's, for me, something that is passing on. So I have seen this really happening, that it's not just like, I want you to be a successful leader, but I want them also to have huge impact themselves. And that can be in their own family, it can be in their community or in their church or in their friends group, in their country. So for me, transformation is something you keep passing on. First yourself, and then you become a leader, and you become so good in doing that, and then you're passing it on.
So what if somebody doesn't feel like they want to be a leader, or they are not in that place where they see their own potential? What can be done? Because there's a lot of pressure in society, and I think some people just want to take a step back or take a seat. What do you think?
Well, I do believe leadership is not so much about that you have to be up front of a whole crowd of people, right? For me, leadership is, first of all, you need to lead yourself in the right direction. Yeah, because we can, look at other people to help you lead your own way, but you need to learn to lead your own way in a positive sense. I do see that once you do that, that there's a ripple effect that happens, right? People start seeing how you are different, how you have transformed yourself. And ultimately, you become, without wanting that even, or even having the desire for it, you become kind of a leader in a sense that people will start asking you questions like, how did you do this? You're so much more brighter, you're so much more inspiring, you're so much different. And I think that's part of leadership, is not that you have to take the torch and walk on front of everybody else, but to know that whoever you have become, right, is going to create inspiration and transformation for the people around you. And if you just take on that a little bit more conscious, not just to say, oh, yeah, it will happen, but just like I will, with conscious thoughts and conscious expression of myself, inspire people to also be more transformational in their own life. I think that's already leadership. So it's not like, hey, you have to suddenly become this amazing, well-known leader. No, it always starts in your own journey. And I remember my teacher told me, he said, if you just are focusing on your own transformation, within a year, there's going to be transformation happening in the people around you. If you keep doing that, within the second year, there will be transformation in your community, outside your personal family. And within a year, you will already have affected people beyond your town, your city, into the world around you, just by being you. And so that is, when you keep doing that transformation, you become automatically a transformation leader without perhaps a profession around it, or perhaps being writing books about it, but just by being you.
So thank you for bringing in the word conscious, because many times in this podcast, we take the word conscious or thoughtful and, they can replace each other. And that is mindful. All these words are about awareness of what we're doing and making decisions, having an intention for doing this, not just let's see how my life unfolds. I enjoy seeing how my life unfolds as well, and I know you do. Lots of surprises, we don't want every single thing to be planned out. That's boring. But also to kind of steer it. We can never have complete control, because the pandemic has shown that whatever plans we had, some universal power had another plan, right? Yeah. So if we are thoughtful and in our own space, and we transform ourselves and we transform our community, where do you feel thoughtful leadership is needed on a global level? Where do you think it's really needed?
Well, I see that the younger generation that is coming up now is really probably more thoughtful in their leadership and their expression than, the generation before it, and even my generation. I can see that on my daughter, who's turning 18 this year, is like, she's so thoughtful about how to address people, what identity, what label we thought like was normal, 20 years ago, to say certain things, right? And so how thoughtful they are in addressing people and not pointing or labeling or, saying certain things. And I was like, wow, it teaches me also so much at this point, to be honest, that I'm like, oh, you're right. I need to be even more thoughtful, right, in how I address certain things. And because things were like normal, to be addressed a certain way, 50 years ago, right? And that is definitely, there's like this younger generation that I think will be probably possible to be the most thoughtful leaders also towards the humanity, towards the earth. If they don't take that on, then we don't have any hope for the planet and humanity, right? So I think it's kind of a more natural thing for them. That's what I've seen also, with her friends, and I see there is a shift that has happened. And so that's really important. And I think also where it's definitely needed, and I think they will bring it there, is, there are still so many politicians and leaders in companies that, organizations that, of course, are having their own agenda, right? And I think thoughtful leadership is also to do with compassion, and listening to the others. And I love the fact that you have the thought and the leader in a yellow, because yellow is actually a color of compassion, the warmer yellow. And so that is something that I see that leaders, they still sometimes are just so focused on their own agenda that they're not compassionate or empathic or thinking how the other is experiencing the situation. And that is still something that we have a long road to go.
Yes, well, when I write and speak about thoughtful leadership, so in the book, I talk about the fact that it's a fast-paced society. There's many pressures and stresses. And the bigger the company, the more the shareholders, the stakeholders, the pressure to produce the bottom line. So, I think many enlightened leaders understand that it's not just about finance, but when you have shareholders, and I have shareholders in one of my companies, you feel an obligation to make sure that happens. And then when there's a conflict between the numbers and people, call it compassion, empathy, just making sure people are okay, it's tricky because you want to do both. Mm-hmm. But many times I think the finance wins, which is kind of sad. So let's talk about wealth. Let's talk about extreme wealth and the fact that you can be a thoughtful leader and wealthy. What do you think about that?
Oh, I totally agree that is possible. I mean, I've worked in my executive mentoring with more than 20 billionaires. So I know, at a certain point, sometimes they were definitely focusing on the agenda of money, right? Because that's how they build up their wealth. But at a certain point, they also see that financial wealth is just not enough. And that they have a financial responsibility to give back or to do it differently. But I think people that are looking for wealth in the financial world sometimes have to go through different stages of how to deal with money. And one of them is probably at a certain moment is that they're kind of looking to money towards the eyes of greed and the eyes of having more and more and more. And so they don't always see what they can do with that money as an impact. So if I see that so many of these, multi-millionaires and billionaires and celebrities that I'm working with, at a certain point, they start really seeing that there is a contribution they can do with their wealth. And for example, when I'm working with clients, they know that they will tell me, these are my goals. And then I said, okay, but what are also your charity goals? And so if they make a certain amount of wealth, and we have worked with that to attain their goals, they have to show me the 10% they're giving away from the profit. So they have to show me the checks that they have been writing. And they don't like that from me. But, and it's not a check to me, right? They already pay me, but a check to the charities or the impact. So I always gently open their hearts and open their minds to have more impacts, with their money, with their, I would say, their name, their brands that they have. So that's a question that I always bring back. And they know if that's not in their goals, if that's not in their daily action, I will go back to that all the time. Okay, all right, you have done all this wonderful thing. What about the rest of the world? What about your charities? Is it enough? Is it enough? Can you grow more? Can you think better? Can you think in a different way? It's one of the things I do when I work with leaders is always pushing that envelope for them. right? And it's not always a fun thing for them. But after a while, they know. I'm always thinking how if you have this wealth, then you have a huge amount of impact. And so if you can grow that impact, and I think that's part of thoughtful leadership also. It's like for me, it's always been about the impact. The more impact I have, the more wealth has come to me. But then again, there's more for impact. Yeah. So you have to always link wealth and impact, positive impact together.
They are linked. They're inextricably linked. And I think people just forget. And also the environment, some governments stress wealth building more than social responsibility and social issues. We're not getting into a political discussion here, but I founded a group called Liberal Entrepreneurs, which many people thought, well, those words don't go together. But I have a very liberal, very open and generous and contribution mindset, as well as being an entrepreneur. So it's not like all entrepreneurs are crooks, which obviously we're not. And it's not like being liberal is only for woke people who haven't got a finger on the pulse of reality. We can be both. So one of the things that I did, I don't know if you saw it, Marie, but I created something called At Least 1%. Because the 10% is a great goal, and that, I think it originally comes from the church and tithing to help the poor in your community, and it's a great thing. So many people do take 10% of their income, probably net income, and give it to charity, which is great. Other people never think about it, didn't know about it, and so I decided to do a little test because I thought, I'm earning more and more than I was, but my giving has not gone up proportionately. And I calculated it, and it wasn't even 1%, which shocked me and saddened me and sort of shocked me into action to up all of my charitable donations. I do them on a monthly, goes out of my bank. So I just hadn't paid any attention. That kind of thing, if more people did that, I really feel we could take care of everybody in the world. We've gone off track. Well, I don't know. We haven't gone off track. It is still thoughtful.
I think it's part of thoughtful leadership but you need to start somewhere, right? So, and perhaps you're building up your wealth and building up your business, and 10% is like, this is just not doable, right? But I always say to people, well, it can be time that you're giving, yeah. It can be conversations you have. Like I just was on coming with a taxi, and I had this very in-depth conversation with this man, and he was like, wow, I should pay you, right? Because I gave him so much advice. And I said to him, no, this is your gift of today. Yeah. So, your gift is what you're giving, and time and service. You cannot always give that a number. Yeah. But at least I always say, if you can make one person a day smile, right? If that's with a wonderful gift, some time, perhaps a donation, it's not so much that it has to have numbers around it, but it must become a daily contribution, a daily energy, or an ongoing, if it's not daily, an ongoing, regularly, right? And to stand still with it every so often, right? To say like, what have I done this month? Yeah. Sometimes there's like, because from everything that goes online, we give 10% away. And then I was like, last month, I was like, I forgot to do that. Okay. It's like 2 months now, right? Perfect. And then, there are always times, even in business, that you're like, I cannot do that. Yeah. Because there's so much investment. Hey, but then give less, but at least keep going with it. That's the whole message I think you need to have. It's not how much, and if it's 10%, but it's an ongoing contribution.
And I think contribution it's an attitude, it's a mindset, it's a habit. So I think what you're saying is that if you're aware, if you're conscious of it as a thoughtful leader, this will be just part of your life. So the impact that you're making, You first make sure that, you are improving yourself and doing everything you can and transforming as you want to then transform the people in your life and beyond with that ripple effect. And the impact that you can have just by doing that is fantastic. And then if you can think about what else you can give, if you've created space and time in your life, people who are semi-retired or when they sell their business and they have all this time and money, I do think, financial wealth enters into it. It's worth thinking about all the types of wealth. That's what I think.
Correct. And like I said, time can be your wealth. Yeah. And your service can be your wealth. So it doesn't have to be always like the standards that you have to follow from some other people. You have to look into yourself, what is possible. But I think the fact that you are contributing in some way or some form, you are already creating impact beyond yourself. And at that moment, you already are a thoughtful leader.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, we only have a few more minutes left, but what I would love to ask you for, if you're willing, is some advice for all the people listening to us, because we have really thoughtful, caring people who listen to the podcast, and we're really grateful for everybody who spreads the word, and we want to give back to them. So you've already given masses of value. And is there any specific advice or tips that you have for people they can implement right now?
Well, I would suggest, to really take time for yourself, because, as a thoughtful leader, we're always in that moment of giving, right? We're always, that's like our attitude is giving. But we really need to take time for yourself. Is that meditation or prayer or yoga or something a few times a week? If it's not every day, at least a few times a week, so that you receive energy back for yourself. Because also be thoughtful to yourself, not just be thoughtful in what you do as leader to the world, but what is your time for you, because you need to re-energize yourself. And, there have been years that I did not listen to that part of myself. And I really out a few times. And each time it was like, because I had given too much and I did not take that so much care of myself. And so thoughtful leadership also to your own body, to your own mind, to your own life, to food that you're eating, to the exercise you're doing. So try to understand that you need to have a very good foundation in yourself, so that your leadership can always blossom.
Oh, I love the blossom. And I love picturing people blossoming into the people they're meant to be. And you guys, I hope you have enjoyed listening to Marie. And this conversation is not over, because all of her details are in the notes. You can find her everywhere. Please do follow her, connect with her, and just try one or two things that we were talking about today and see if it makes you feel that you're transforming into the person that you're meant to be. And then if each person does that, we lift everybody in society. And Marie and I would be very happy about that, wouldn't we?
Definitely. And thank you so much, Mindy, for inviting me, and everybody that's listening. Just keep listening to this podcast.
Brilliant. Thanks, Marie. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of The Thoughtful Leader, and I hope it's inspired you to be more thoughtful as a leader in your business. Please consider subscribing and leaving a review. An important question for you. Do you want to create a culture of thought leadership in your organization? My best-selling book, The Thoughtful Leader, is available now on Amazon and many other sites in paperback, ebook, and audiobook formats. Please visit www.mindygk.com for more great content. That's www.mindygk.com. Speak to you again soon.